You're spot on, and I'd go a little bit further than that. I actually think it's a dereliction of duty now. I think that there was a number of options opened, or certainly at least 2 options opened up to Patrick Stewart on Sunday. One was the obvious one.
Yep.
And he's already said, yeah, that's the easy option, and we're not going to do the easy thing, even if it wins a popularity contest. It's, we don't believe it's the right thing to do. Fine, he said that some weeks ago. You don't say nothing after that. You can't say nothing. You can't hide under your desk eating biscuits while the world is melting down all around you. You need to come out and address it. And even if your point remains the same, your mind remains unchanged, and you remain of a mind that making this change would be the wrong thing to do, then come out and say it. Double down on it.
100%.
Own it. Speak to it. And tell the supporters that, do you know what, guys? As bad as that result was, I know it's really humiliating. I know it's probably one of the worst in the club's history, but it hasn't changed our view. Mm-hmm. And do you know why he's got a responsibility to do that? It's twofold. One, you've got paying customers that you're really in danger now of pushing away and poking a stick at to such an extent there's likely to be a reaction, and a bad reaction. But 2, nobody said a word. As you said, they haven't even put out a tweet on their account. When was the last time you saw a Rangers Twitter account not put out a tweet in 4 or 5 days, whatever? But also, the first voice tomorrow is going to be the managers.
Wow.
So he's walking into a situation where the board have chosen to say nothing, do nothing. If they want him to stay in, if they still believe he's the guy, then come out and say it. And at least that way, that takes a little bit of the heat out of Clement's press conference tomorrow, given that first question he's going to be asked will be along the lines of, how are you still here?
No.
I totally agree, Keith, and I would actually add to that in terms of, I don't think that's where Clement helped himself post-match either.
He never does.
No. Right, but, and you're right, it should be a Patrick Stewart or Fraser Thornton, whoever, coming out with some kind of explanation, some kind of clarity. But in terms of that kind of, you mentioned it, that kind of emotive language there, trying to relate with fans in terms of letting them know that you understand how bad this is and you understand how humiliating it is. That's the line that Clement should have went down after the game, rather than going on
with 30 shots at goal.
I mean, somebody's got to ban him from mentioning shots on target when they lose a game of football. He should have come out after the game and not even mentioned the game. Nothing. He shouldn't have even touched on the actual game itself. He should have come out and basically said, it's unacceptable, it's embarrassing, it's humiliating. I won't put up with it. The players have been given that message. I can only apologise to the supporters and hope that I'm given the chance to turn it around. That's all I had to say. And I think he'd have got a lot more respect and maybe not get the same abuse that he got.
I think the problem, Scott, is that he did say a lot of that, but he didn't aim any of it at himself. He aimed at all at his players.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't know where you go with that. If you've been in charge of that group of players now for well over a year, the results have been flaky throughout, with the odd occasional disaster thrown into it, and then that happens, and you're blaming the players. And these are a group of players that you've had plenty of time to assemble. You've told half of them you didn't fancy them at some point. It's just all over the place.
He said, Jacko, he said the players were nervous in the second half.
That's the bit, Scott, that is the word, nervous.
How could they be? This is a team that went to Old Trafford a few weeks ago and held their own, played Spurs at Ibrox and should have won the game, went to Nice and scored 4 goals away, went to Olympiacos and won, Malmo and won. How could they possibly be nervous at home to Queen's Park, trying to break down a Queen's Park team that drew to HV Scotbride about 4 minutes ago?
I tell you, my theory on that is, Scott, I don't know if you've seen any of it, but we were on immediately after the game on Sunday. My theory is the nervousness came from the manager down. My theory is that he got into that dressing room and it was his bottle that was starting to crash. It was his senses that were starting to become scrambled. It was his head that was clouding over. I think the decision to replace Bailey Rice at half-time was an indication of we're in trouble. And I'm starting to panic. And I think that, and he actually said, and this I completely disagreed with his assessment as well, that the tempo improved in the second half. No, it didn't. Not what I was watching. It went the other way. And to me, it looked as if a nervousness had set in, as if whatever he said inside that dressing room, players went out there terrified for that second half. And then, in a peak of anger, he pulled off Hadji because Hadji misplaced a pass. Yeah. And Hadji was consistently looking like the one player that would unlock that Queen's Park defence. I'll tell you another thing, Scott. The more I've thought about it is, you watch that first half performance, it certainly wasn't a great Rangers performance, not by any manner of means. But you tell me they weren't in absolute control of the tie.
I know.
They had complete control of the tie. What was the need to... There was no need to panic at half-time. It was, look, guys, do you know what? Sharpen up in the final third. A little bit more energy. I want to see you play it, move the ball a bit quicker. You'll get a goal in the first 10. I want a goal in the first 10, 15 minutes of this second half. Then I want another one. Let's put this thing to bed and get up the road. That's the attitude. Instead of that, I think he pressed the panic button. He made changes. God knows what young Bailey Rice is feeling like, by the way. The fall guy for that.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's saying he's here to develop young players and bring them on to the next level and put a value on them. Bailey Rice might take a while to recover for that. Who knows what damage that's got to do to that boy? And I think that's shameful. And I actually think at that minute in time, the manager had a responsibility. Even if he thought, I want to put Raskin on because I need more energy and more experience in the middle of the pitch, I think he had a responsibility to at least let Bailey Rice go out and have the first 10 minutes of that second half. And I think by taking him off, he's almost put a target in the young boy's back. I think that's shameful. And I think that he's done that to protect himself as well. And I think that's double shameful.
The other thing is just a wee ad, and I just thought about it the other day because we spoke about it so much at the start of the season, but you think of the nonsense that was spouted about the sports science and about resting players and stuff like that. This was probably the first week of the season. Rangers had a full week to prepare for Queen's Park with no midweek game. And yet, after the game, the manager's complaining about a lack of tempo and a lack of energy. How's that possible? Mm-hmm. So you could actually argue that they're better playing a midweek game, a Wednesday or Thursday, because at least they're a bit more at it come the Sunday.
Marzuno in the comment section chimes in saying, what's the bottom if not losing to Queen's Park at Ibrox, losing to the ladies team? And of course, Rangers are playing Hearts this weekend at Tynecastle. It's a place that I think I'm right in saying the last two visits they've dropped points. Obviously, the first day of the season 0-0. I think the last day of the season as well, last season. Look, do you guys fancy them to win at the weekend? And if they don't win, if they get beat, does it make a difference to Clement?
No, how can it make a difference to Clement?
Well,
if you can lose at home and blow your last chance of silverware against a team, as Scott said, that was drawn with East Kilbride the other week from the Championship, if that doesn't constitute a sacking offence, then how could a defeat at Tynecastle constitute a sacking offence? It can't. And you'd need to go through some serious mental gymnastics to get to the point where you explain that one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sorry, go on.
No, I'm interested to hear what Scott thinks, but I just don't see... If that isn't rock bottom, then what is?
I agree, and to answer your question, Daniel, I don't fancy them on Sunday. I think the likelihood is they'll drop points again. But for me, the worry for Rangers and the board isn't the game at Tynecastle. It's their next game, which is at home to St Mirren the following Saturday. Because I've spoken to a few Rangers fans, some with season tickets, and they don't want to go. I mean, they're now ready to stay away and saying that could be one of the lowest crowds they've had in a long time. If they slip up again at Tynecastle or get beat by Hearts, then I'd be really interested to see. There might be protests again, there might be banners, who knows? Probably from the ultras or the diehards, but I think even more worryingly will be the amount of empty seats because these punters have had enough. and a home game against St Mirren, with all due respect, might be the perfect opportunity for them to vote with their feet and really show the board what they think. And it's probably the most hard-hitting thing they can do, is if you turn up for a league game, the directors turn up for a league game on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and there's 20-odd thousand inside Ibrox. I think that in itself might actually force a change, or might force them into some kind of decision.
It is kind of on the fans now, Keith. It feels like, to force this change. If the board aren't going to do anything, they're not saying anything. I think Scott's right. I think the fans are going to have to do something about it.
When was it not? Let's get it right. At every football club, it's always the fans. And whether or not they're actually organising it and protesting, and they've brought banners and there's tifos or whatever. The point is that to run a successful football club, you can't do it without the people that are paying their money to come in through the door to buy replica strips. I'm surprised that Rangers Twitter account hasn't tweeted out a new 5th strip or something like that this week to chime in with the mood. Without the fans being there with you and prepared to go on the journey and sticking with it and going through thick and thin, you've not got a business. And these people in the boardroom are business people. They can't afford to alienate and ignore their customers to such an extent that there's no business left. And so it's just always been the way. And maybe there is an element of the Rangers board taking the supporters for granted. Mm-hmm. I'd go further than that. I'd say they're actually playing them like fools right now. And their failure to engage, even if, as I said, it was just to come out and say, we're convinced that we've done the right thing here and we're going to stick with it. The fact that they've not even felt inclined to come out and deliver a message and to communicate to their own supporters, I